Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Elis Adelle and I'm an intuitive tarot reader and astrologer, and I'm here to talk to you about the week of July 15th through 21st. So astrologically speaking, I'm just going to speak about the astrology for 2-3 quick minutes, and then we're going to get into some cards to see what the overall energy of the week is going to be and how we can best work with this energy, okay? So this is a really big week. This lunar cycle has felt extremely alchemical from the get-go, even before the lunar cycle began. And part of the big reason why it feels so alchemical to me is because of the astrology that is going to be playing out over this next week, which is on the 15th, tomorrow, Monday the 15th, we have Mars conjunct Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus, which also happens to be conjunct a fixed star Algol. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this is a very powerful energy. When Mars and Uranus meet in the sky, it can be violent, disruptive, unexpected, and just a general shakeup that can be very disruptive, but usually this disruption holds a higher purpose that brings us into a higher level of awareness, a higher state of consciousness. Uranus is, after all, the great awakener, and when the great awakener Uranus meets up with Mars, the warrior, there's usually some kind of clash or some disruption. But that disruption or that clash always serves the purpose of taking us to a higher level of consciousness, to a greater state of intellectual alignment with our spiritual center, with our inner being and our higher self. And we can observe the last Mars-Uranus conjunction that we had was on October 7th, 2023. And, you know, what the events of October 7th and all the subsequent events that were domino effects of that day led to a great mass awakening, a great awakening of consciousness among especially young people in terms of the corruption that is inherent in our governments and in the world, right? And then later in the week, on the 20th or the 21st, depending on where you are on the planet, we have the full moon in Capricorn. This is the second full moon in Capricorn. This is especially relevant because since April or March of 2023, we've been in a reversed lunar cycle where the new moon and the full moon have not been matching their complementary opposite signs. So when we're in the normal or organic flow of the lunar cycle, we have the new moon in its respective sign at the beginning of the zodiac. When the sun is in Cancer, for example, like how it is now, we usually would have the new moon in Cancer at the beginning of the season when the sun just enters Cancer, followed by the full moon in Capricorn, which is its complementary opposite sign, somewhere in the middle of that Cancerian season. For the last, a little bit over a year now, we've been in the reverse cycle where we have the full moon first at the beginning of the cycle, followed by the new moon. And then the next full moon only comes in the subsequent lunar cycle. So it's a little confusing, but basically if you notice the last lunar cycle we had, it was a Gemini new moon followed by the Capricorn full moon. So we've been having new moons that are not matching the complementary opposite in the full moon, and it's been what that creates is kind of a difficulty in us understanding and seeing our own emotions and patterns. So it can create some difficulty and conflict in terms of that. In terms of our ability to see our own patterns, to see our own emotions, to feel our own feelings, we can kind of get so lost in our reactivity or in our trauma or in our trauma responses that it can be hard for us to really take a step back and be discerning and see clearly. So this is a full moon that, first of all, we're getting back into that organic, natural kind of lunar cycle, which is very important. And so we're seeing ourselves more clearly. We're feeling our feelings with more discernment. And also, this is the second full moon in Capricorn at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Capricorn, which is going to be activated later in the year again between September 1st and November 19th, when Pluto will be retrograding back to this point, the 29th degree of Capricorn, for the last time in our lifetimes and for an over 220-year cycle. 280-year cycle, excuse me. So I'm going to do another video that talks just about the full moon because it's very important. But suffice to say that this week there's going to be shakeups and revelations, and also I believe, we are going to be shedding the parts of ourselves that have kept us from being able to fully embody our higher self, our inner being, and our kind of soul's calling for this next age, for this new period of transition that we're moving into, all of us. Okay, so now let's see the overall energy for the week. What's the overall energy of the week, please? What can we expect? What is the overall energy of this week? Overall energy of the week, please. The overall energy of the week of July 15th through 21st. Overall energy of the week. Okay. We've got the World, Four of Cups, the Sun, the Tower reversed, and the Three of Swords. Overall energy, please. What's the overall energy of this week? Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we have these three that also came out. I'm going to leave these to the side for now. Yeah, so with the World clarified with the Three of Swords, the overall energy really starts off with this theme that I'm feeling where we are ending out these cycles. You know how I was talking about with the reversed lunar cycle, how it's like we were too caught up in our own emotional reactivity. We were too caught up in our own trauma responses. We were too caught up in the old, like the subconscious programs and stories that we've been caught in for most of us, for most of our lives, or for the last many years, that have kept us small, that have kept us in states of lack, that have kept us out of tune with our authenticity and our true nature, and our spiritual gifts and our innate soul to wisdom and talents, and from being able to fully express and step into those roles that we have really been born for. These times that we're about to move into, 2025 and 2026, 2027, from 2025 to 2030 is going to be a 5-year period where it's like there's going to be huge change, mass awakening, transformation, and these are the times that I think if all of us who are alive right now, regardless of what age or stage of life you're in, if you're alive right now, it's because you signed up for this exact time that we're about to move through. You knew that this was going to be happening and you were preparing for this. So this next week, we're ending out these huge karmic cycles, these huge multiple lifetime or lifelong emotional cycles and mental programs that have kept us in states of lack, of not having enough, right? And we have to be very mindful in the next week to not get caught in energies of disappointment or fear or apathy that keep us from moving forward to the new shore, to the breakthrough energy that's available to us. It's going to be very easy this week to get caught up in the propaganda, in the media, and in the old narratives in our own mind that are going to try, and in our own like emotional psyche, in our emotional body, that's going to try and keep us in apathetic emotional states where we just kind of give in to the old narrative and like stay in the comfort zone and don't stretch ourselves and don't move beyond, it's like we need to push past the state of comfort that keeps us in the old narrative. Because there's something new that's available to us, but we have to be brave enough to get past any feelings of fear or any feelings of not being quite enough, right? We have to push past those fears because we have the sun here, right? The sun with the 8 of Swords reversed. It's available to us. The new energy, the new dawn, the higher state of ourselves is available to us. If we're able to honor our inner child, if we're able to honor our higher inner essence, right? And by higher, what I really just mean is like that spiritual self, that inner being, that part of us that is connected to our inner child and is eternal and with us from lifetime to lifetime. And that chose to be here and chose to be exactly where we are right now, right? We're here for a reason. But we have to be discerning. The King of Swords and the Tower reversed. We have to be discerning. We have to be discerning about where we're letting these old narratives, maybe take control or dominate us or place us in positions of victimhood. We have to be very mindful of if there's any feelings of where we are like constrained, or we feel like we don't have control, or we feel like we're not able to move forward in the way we would like to. We have to be really mindful of that. That these are illusions. These are these are even if our life circumstances are difficult or constraining or challenging at this time, we are never bound in the ways in which our mind might have us believe that we are, right? So let's see what these 3 cards here are. I hope you guys can still see. The sun is going down. We have the 8 of, not the 8th, we have strength, excuse me. But 8, that's an interesting message. 8, okay, we'll get to that in a second. Page of Cups and the Moon, yeah. I'm feeling that this is like the solution for this week, the advice for this week. We have to be willing to be very curious and to not be afraid to try new things with the Page of Cups. Try new things specifically when it comes to our own intuitive and spiritual abilities, and also our ability to heal ourselves, our ability to transmute our own energy. We are in a strength-ruled year right now that is, very challenging, because the Strength card is a challenging card, right? It's a card that really talks about us going through an alchemical process within ourselves, where we take the lower self, the shadow, the darkness, the density, and transmute it through attention, through awareness, through self-compassion and kindness also. I think that's something that we don't talk about enough with the Strength card, how important it is to be self-compassionate and have care with the self as we move through those dense energies and transmute them. Yeah, there's something about this page energy where it's like, don't be afraid to just experiment, to try new things, to get creative. The Page of Cups to me is a card that talks about, exploring creative talent, exploring creativity, artistry, exploring intuition, exploring different modalities, exploring magic, right? Exploring the ways in which we can express ourselves and engage with our creative and multidimensional nature. How can you channel your emotions into form? How can you channel all the things that you are feeling, all of the things that maybe try and restrain you and hold you back and keep you in those loops of not feeling like you're quite enough? How can you channel that outwards, out of your body, like onto a piece of paper, into a piece of music, into some kind of creative offering that maybe doesn't need to be consumed or seen by anyone, but just to get it out of your body, out of your system, into something, into moving your body in a way that expresses that emotion, making art that expresses that emotion, right? Something like that is going to be so, so helpful this week. I'm going to get a few oracle cards for any other information or advice that is here for us for this next week. Any advice or information for this next week? I want to take this time to thank you also. If you're here still, if you're still watching this, thank you, and thanking your higher self as well for aligning to me and to this reading, to channel this energy for you, to bring through these messages. I really appreciate it. So, what other information do we need to know? What other advice or information do we have for us for this week, please? For all the souls who have been drawn into this reading, for all the souls who are resonant here, what message do we all collectively need to hear? What message do we need to hear for this next week, please? What message do we need to hear? What do we need to know about this next week? Thank you. Angelic frequency. Angels are here. You are safe. Potent connection. Yeah. We have a lot of support. Angelic support, right? We're not alone as we're going through this. Whenever there's a Uranus transit, it's a time for me when we're always very closely connected to our cosmic, our multidimensional guides, right? When we have a lot of support coming to us from these invisible realms that we are always engaged with and connected to. And I think that this is part of the process that we need to go through with this transmutation energy and getting creative, Strength, Page of Cups, and the Moon as the advice for how to work with all these energies this week, this big breakthrough moment that we're in, where we need to really be discerning and push past those mental programs, those stories that have been embedded in us from a very early age that are these stories and these kinds of programs it's like you have to dig in there. You have to really get into your childhood. You have to get into those key memories you have of times where you were made to feel small or insignificant or not enough, even if they, your rational mind tries to say, oh, that was just one little moment. That's not a big deal, right? You can have had the most wonderful and supportive family, but you might have had one specific memory when you were a little kid of someone saying something to you in an offhanded way that made you feel small. And because you were a kid, because you were 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, whatever, you internalized that and took that as truth and made that as part of your story. So you have to really go back to those stories, to those programs, and uproot them and make sure that they are not still running in the ways in which in your brain, right? Because if you have that story subconsciously running in your brain, that's going to be determining what kinds of feelings you experience and what kinds of thoughts you have. And the feelings and thoughts we have are what make up our reality in our life. So we have angelic support in this process of working with our intuition, working with our creativity, working with our alchemical abilities to transmute this energy. Call on your angels for assistance in this process. We're not in this alone, right? I'm feeling one more from this deck. What else for this week, please? Thank you. Soul star activation, fulfilling soul contracts, remembering who you are. Yes. You see how purple both of these cards are? And this is the soul star chakra. This is connecting us to our higher self, connecting us to that part of us that is eternal and with us from lifetime to lifetime. We're bringing more of that in. We're embodying more of that. And I believe we're like rounding out any soul contracts that have to do with this past that we're ending, with these old programs that have been running, these old stories, right? We're closing those out, and we're coming into alignment with our truth and ourselves. Okay. Let's get an archetypal energy that will support us in this process for this week, and then we're going to close this out because it is dark. And my porch light that was supposed to be lit is burnt out and not lit. So look at that. Look at what just flipped over as I was shuffling the Alchemist. That's the one we're going to take. Thank you very much. Wow. Light attribute. Transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. Shadow attribute. Misfortune of the power and misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spiritual practice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. This is an alchemical week, right? That's the very first thing that I said in this video. And this is exactly what we need to focus on, is our ability to alchemize, our ability to transmute, our ability to, through our awareness of going back to those old stories, those old programs, we can uproot that from that memory in the past and bring it into the light of awareness to be burned away. So also working with fire is going to be important, and working with water. Water and fire are the two elements that are coming through strongly. Fire is excellent for destroying and transmuting the things that we don't want to hold on to anymore. And water is beautiful for soothing, for clearing, and also for aligning us deeper to this higher self, to these higher realms. Water is light condensed. So water is that element that really, once we've come through with the fire and burned away and transmuted and cleared, water we can then bring in to soothe, to soften, and to align, and to get really clear and connected to our inner channel and our inner being. Okay, this was a beautiful message. Wow, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end, even in the dark here with me. That won't happen again. But anyways, I'm sending you so much love. I hope that this week goes smoothly for all of us. And sending you lots of love. Blessings on the journey. Thanks for being here.